And on this question, the House does concur with Senate Amendment number 2 to House Bill 1438, and this bill, having received a constitutional majority, is hereby declared passed.
Well, there you heard it. Illinois residents over the age of 21 will be able to legally buy recreational marijuana starting next year. Now, with the bills passing, Illinois is the 11th state to fully legalize the drug. And joining us this morning is Chicago Sun-Times reporter Tom Schuba. And Tom, thank you so much for coming up and waking up early with us. But you've been reporting on this for quite some time. So let's break it down. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. January 2020, what's going to happen?
Basically, people are going to be able to legally buy and smoke recreational weed in Illinois. Be able to have up to 30 grams of pot on you at a time, which is like a little bit over an ounce. 5 grams of cannabis concentrates, which are like hash oil or wax, and then have edibles, cannabis infused products up to a ½ gram.
Okay. And so does this mean that people can just go ahead and smoke whenever they want, or is there a rule to that too?
No, there's still, it's still restricted, like you can't just go smoke a blunt in the middle of the street, or, can't smoke at schools, can't smoke at certain state institutions, can't smoke around people who are under 21 years of age, can't smoke while in a vehicle. So your best bet is in your house, out of the view of your neighbors.
And now talking about the home, because I know this is a lot of what a lot of people are talking about on social media. Can I grow it in my house? So can people grow weed at their house?
So this was a huge part of the last couple weeks of this debate about legalization. Opponents worried that home grow marijuana would, create pot for the black market. And so initially it was written into it that Illinoisans would be able to grow up to 5 plants in their home. That was cut out, and basically only medical marijuana patients can grow those 5 plants.
And so when it comes to someone going to work or someone who had smoked before going to work, what about employers? Is there a kind of like a set of rules that they can follow, or how do you apprehend someone who's like high at work?
So it's up to employers. It's at their discretion. They can still test their employees for marijuana, and should they test positive and the employer want to terminate them, they have the right to do that under the law.
And like we mentioned earlier, you've been reporting this for quite some time, but in your own personal reporting, have you noticed the continuous battle from both sides, from people that want it and people that don't want to pass it? What has been that like?
It seems like a lot of Illinoisans want it. Some conclusive polls have showed 2/3 of Illinoisans want marijuana legalization, and there's been a huge push among Democrats, namely, Governor Pritzker, who campaigned pretty heavily on doing just what's happened here in the last week. So the momentum seems to have shifted towards people being accepting of legalization. I think the votes kind of portrayed that last week too.
Absolutely, and this goes beyond people just being able to smoke pot, people being able to smoke weed out in the streets and at their homes, like you had mentioned. It's actually going to alter and shift some criminal charges as well. So break that down for us, because that's a pretty big deal. That's like probably the biggest one.
Right. So these whole concerns of social and criminal justice have been kind of the cornerstone of the Democrats' bills here to legalize pot. And the big thing is, this was another thing that was adjusted last minute, kind of. So initially, it was written that these expungements of pot-related convictions would automatically be wiped clean, and that would affect up to 800,000 Illinoisans. That was changed, and so now people, individuals who have convictions of up to 30 grams of marijuana, which is what will be legal to have, will be able to be pardoned by the governor without having to initiate the clemency process, basically. And then for people between 30 and 500 grams, them or a state's attorney will have to kind of initiate that process to wipe clean the records.
And that process can start, just really quickly here, 2020, or is it starting now?
I believe it starts when the law is enacted.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. All right, well, definitely, there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more that we have to find out about what's going on here in the state of Illinois. But to read more on the new marijuana law, head over to the ChicagoSunTimes.com. And you can also follow Tom on Twitter. His handle is @TomSchuba.